Child Care assistance is something that's available to eligible families within the whole state of New York.
There are other counties that have been on the wait list from last year. Minnesota.
Yes, Minnesota.
The scamming Daycare. Yes. You gotta use the word scamming.
Well, we don't know if they were scamming.
Every big discovery starts with a closer look. This is Magnify Child Care, presented by Academic Explorers. Guided by our promise to put the child first, we're zooming in on what makes these early years so important. Sharing the stories that shape us, focusing on what matters most. Let's start exploring.
Welcome to Magnify Child Care, a podcast for parents and providers. We are your hosts, Danielle and Gaelle.
Hi.
And today we have a very special guest who is an Eligibility Examiner in Child Care Assistance for a county within New York State, Lauren.
Hey.
Welcome to Magnify Child Care, Lauren.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. We really appreciate your time. For those of you that don't know, child care assistance is something that's available to eligible families within the whole state of New York. So we figured that this would be a great conversation to include in an episode of our podcast for families to use as a resource if anybody is unaware that child care assistance could be available to you. Hopefully you find this episode interesting and informative. So Lauren, if you don't mind, can you give us like a broad or little rundown of what child care assistance is and how families that are eligible can access it in New York State?
Child care assistance used to be called child care subsidy because a lot of times it does subsidize the daycare costs. It doesn't fully cover everything that most daycares charge, but sometimes it does. It is low income eligibility requirement, especially now because there is a waitlist in New York State. You would go to your local district office, your local county office, and find out if you qualify, one. And if you already have it and you are in need of childcare. A lot of times there are different outside agencies. Like with us, we have the Child Care Council. I believe Danny, or you guys also have the Child Care Council. So they have like a list of daycare providers, and they can provide you with those that either accept child care subsidy or child care assistance, or can sign up to do so as long as they're licensed.
Okay.
So what are like three main things that determine if they get qualified or not?
As of right now, because there is a wait list for new applications, or especially in my county, and I know especially for New York State, there are other counties that have been on the wait list from last year. But for those who are renewing, let's say, they have to meet under 300% of the New York State median income. They have to have a child who has a physical or mental disability, or they have to be a family in a shelter or in need of temporary assistance. So that is for a renewal of the cases. For a new application, you will be put on a wait list, at least in my county. But typically what it would be, you do have to meet under the 85% state median income guidelines. You have to have a child who is a citizen, and you have to be qualified as a parent who is in a approved childcare need activity. So that would be working, seeking employment, going to school, doing training, things like that.
So you mentioned the 85% state median income limit. Can you explain in simple terms what that might mean for a typical family of 3 or 4? Like, how do you guys decide?
So there is a chart that we usually go by that lists the household sizes and what the state median income is. You can definitely find that online. And you can also, even if you can't find the chart specifically, you can go online to New York State Child Care Assistance Program, and there should be a thing that says, am I eligible? And you just answer a few questions, and you can even put in your income, and it'll say that you may be eligible, and it tells you what your local office is to call and to, start the application process.
Okay. And I'll definitely, for those watching or listening, in the description or the show notes of wherever you're finding this podcast, I'll make sure to include the link to the state website where you can find the eligibility calculator. Is that what it's called? Like the eligibility page.
You mentioned that, it covers a percentage of family subsidy. Does that mean that families would have pay a difference in some cases? If so, can you just explain that a little bit for me?
Yeah, so we go by the market rate. And so that is the maximum that we would pay. And it does vary by each county. They are qualified they're qualified much differently based on the county. There's a chart for that as well, but that's not something that we would share with the parents, unfortunately. It's something that is with the daycares that they would know their market rate. Some daycares charge more than the market rate. So yes, the parents do have to pay the difference.
And I'm sorry to cut you off. And that's permitted. That's okay to do as providers to do so, right?
Yeah, okay. They're entitled to charge more than the market rate because that is what they're charging. And typically what we do see is we see families that have to sign an agreement confirming that this is what DSS is going to pay and then this is your portion. Okay. And, so that they understand while they're getting the approval that, this is what it is that they have to pay for. So it does subsidize some families, and for some families it does pay for the entire tuition. I know with our county we pay out on a monthly basis. So that's how that's calculated. But for others, sometimes it's bi-weekly, sometimes it's weekly. But we go by the market rate, and our county is on a monthly basis.
What would you say is the number one mistake that, at least in what you've seen, that parents are making on their application?
Not listing themselves on the application.
What do you mean?
So when they have the household composition, they put the child's name and they don't list themselves.
That's the number one mistake is parents not listing their names.
Yeah,
what?
We have to scratch that out.
I'm so
the part where it says name, they don't put their name.
They do not. It says name.
you might want to take that out.
Stop.
And they don't put. No. I mean, you don't have to put that. There's other mistakes that they don't do.
I know it's not silly, but it's a silly mistake.
Paying attention.
Yeah, how about that? I know it sounds a little silly, but that is one of the things I do see often, that they forget to put their own names, or they forget to add other children because they think, oh, well, this child doesn't need childcare. You need to list everybody in the household. So basically, it's also just mostly reading. That's the main thing. You have to read carefully. If you don't understand, you can always reach out to the outside agencies that assist with childcare assistance. Like I said, the Child Care Council, I know with us, they definitely have all the paperwork that we have. We even have meetings with them. And they know what we are looking for when we try to process applications, to even expedite applications if everything is filled out in its entirety, all the documents that we need are submitted.
Right. Would you recommend providers assisting families with completing their application?
That depends. If a daycare provider is very honest, then that's fine. But oftentimes with providers who do assist the families, I have seen where the daycare providers fill out the information for them and they give inaccurate information, which ends up causing a fraud referral.
So how can childcare owners or providers best support the families? What do you mean by be honest?
So a lot of times that we don't have the right information, that would be either the other parent is in the household, but the daycare provider says that they're not. Just sometimes it's not even on purpose. A lot of times they do have single parent households. So they'll put oh, the father's not in life, or sometimes it would be the father and it's oh, the mother is not there. And then, we'd have to give the parents a whole new application to put everybody in the household. Other times it could be with the income, because New York State minimum wage is $17 an hour, and so they'll put the wrong income based on the information that they received last year, not knowing that the parent has an increase to meet minimum wage guidelines. So that causes issues. So they need to not fill it out for the parent, but to be honest, one, and two, discuss it with the parent so that there's no issues with the application process or the recertification process that will cause either a fraud referral or delays in the application.
And you mentioned other agencies that can help families, and you mentioned what we call both in Nassau and in your county, Child Care Council. I think there's Child Care Councils across multiple counties in New York State. However, they're not all called Child Care Council. So if you happen to be a parent anywhere in New York State and you're wondering, like, who can help me if not your child care provider, right? Because sometimes every childcare provider has a first, right? They might not have ever dealt with DSS or child care assistance, so they might not know how to help you even if they wanted to. So what you can do as a parent trying to get general help if the county is not helping you and if the child care provider you want can't help you, you can look for a child care resource and referral agency. The Child Care Council of Nassau, as an example, is a child care resource and referral agency here in Nassau County. There is also Child Care Council of Suffolk, which is the Suffolk County Child Care Resource and Referral Agency. So that term of resource and referral agency for childcare is what you want to look up next to the name of your county, and you should be able to find it. I'll actually also try to remember to link the website to Childcare Aware. That's where you'll be able to search by your zip code or your city to find out the list of all the childcare resource and referral agencies near you. But those agencies are the ones that for free should be able to help you navigate the application process for DSS and, you know, helping you to determine if you qualify, because we know that sometimes county workers are so busy that they might not be able to help you as soon as you need. Not Lauren, though.
No, I mean, I definitely do try to help out my clients. And, you know, if I so one thing that's a little different and something that's a bit new with us, not everybody does this, is once we get an application, if you have your email listed, I will email you the documents needed. Also give you my phone number. And, you know, if you have any questions, you can always ask, you know, for my clients specifically. And they do ask, but then sometimes they still don't particularly understand. So that's when I do have to make the referral to like the Child Care Council, especially because we have something else called legally exempt in-home providers. So that's when someone who is someone you know, either someone who's family or someone who's not family, watches your child at home. So that one with our county, the Child Care Council licensed them to make sure that they are able to get funds from the Department of Social Services.
We've been hearing a lot lately in the last couple of months about funding freezes, childcare freezes. We've seen in the headlines that California, what's it called? What's that other state with the Learning Center?
The Learning Center?
No, the thing you sent me on Instagram a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, just my memory. I don't know what happened.
The daycare. Do you know what I'm talking about?
You didn't give that much information to
No,
me.
Is it Minnesota?
Yes, Minnesota.
The scamming daycare.
Yes.
You gotta use the word scamming.
Well, we don't know if they were scamming.
To be fair, let's be honest. There's a little bit of scamming everywhere, whether you label scamming or not. But that really wasn't a scam. We make no claims against what's going on in Minnesota or with those specific daycares. Right. It was proven afterwards that kids were there. He was going at different, allegedly was going there at different times. And it was just, you know, it just looked bad. You know?
Anyway, because of that.
Different topic, different day.
Right, exactly. Because of that, it has
opened the door to scamming in the childcare industry.
At that point, there was news articles about how
they're stopping the funding to Minnesota. Yes. Everybody's not getting funding to Minnesota because of it now.
Well, that was supposed to be us in New York. There were 5 states that were listed, and New York was one of them. So
I think we're fighting, right? They're not governor.
Yeah. So that was going to be my question. We hear a lot about funding freezes, right? So if a parent, can you tell us what you may know about the freeze and if that means that there's a wait list?
And we've gotten calls. I mentioned that to you. Yeah. Just so you guys are aware, we've gotten calls from parents who are concerned, those who are paying attention to how that is going to affect their DSS case. And it's actually a really good thing to be worried about.
So in addition to what we call like federal withholdings, where we have limited funds because of the new administration, the new presidential administration, there was supposed to be another freeze, which limited us even more. But I believe that New York State did start to sue the government, and the federal freeze stopped, but we still have a wait list because of the limited federal funding. So for families who already have childcare, like I had mentioned before, the three main federal priorities are those who are in shelters or need temporary assistance, those who are making under 300% of the state median income, and those who have a child with developmental or mental disability.
So those families at this moment are
the ones that are going through, they have nothing to worry about
at this moment.
Those that are over or at the state 85%, the state median income, while they would normally qualify under regular guidelines, because we have a federal priority at this point, they do not qualify. I do want to mention, like, it's a very difficult thing. It's difficult for the daycare providers. It's difficult for the childcare workers, especially us, because we do feel very bad, especially when we have families that typically would qualify, or that we see in our system, because our system hasn't updated to say, like, no, they don't qualify because of this federal emergency. It still says yes. And for us to have to say to these families, I'm so sorry, you don't qualify anymore, even though I know that they need it, and I know that childcare is expensive. It's draining. It's draining, and it's hard not to take it personally. And sometimes it's a very tough conversation to have. Like, sometimes it's just a very long conversation on the phone with the parent, with the daycare provider, asking when a waitlist is going to open. And unfortunately, we don't know, because it's not something that is up to the Department of Social Services. It's the federal government. And the new presidential administration. So it's not something that we're specifically doing. It's not something that I'm specifically holding back and being like vengeful. But there are, I believe, other agencies outside, but it'd be like the resource and referral agencies that you would have to reach out to see if they also can assist you. They may not pay up to the amount that DSS pays, but sometimes they do pay a portion, so that can help with childcare costs.
What kind of agency, like, can you name a few?
So I actually am aware of the WDI.
Oh.
Yes, WDI cover. Okay. It's not I don't think it's a resource and referral
that's
agency,
what I was asking, like, what would be considered?
A program that I think was started maybe around COVID or before then, that gives a portion of money to families that are don't fall, that are above the DSS income eligibility limit, but under their limit. Like, they have a slightly higher limit than Child Care Assistance Program, but they have very limited funding themselves. So once they're out of funding, that's it. But it was, I believe, $1,000 per month per child if they qualify and were accepted, and if there was funds available. The amount of funds that were going to each family was $1,000 per month per child.
Is that still going on?
I don't know as of right now. It was happening this year. I've heard about other providers near us using it. We're accepting the funding it's been open and closed multiple times since I've learned about it.
Because sometimes the website will say either waitlist or either funding not available or it will open in a couple months.
I think they get, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they get refunded every year annually.
Update as time goes on.
So that's one option for families out there. If you don't qualify for DSS, that might be something that you could look into. And I'll try, if I remember, to link it down below. I also don't know if it's only specific to New York State. I think that it is. We were talking a lot about the income eligibility. I think you may have mentioned in this beginning, you said something about the market rates. I believe we did do an episode, Rochelle and I, about the true cost of childcare. And in that episode, I explained what the market rate is. I'll link that episode. I got a lot of linking to do. I'll link that episode in the notes of this show, or you may be able to click on it somewhere above us. But the market rates are what the state determines they're going to pay childcare providers based on your modality of care and in your county. And those, over the years, typically get updated every 2 years, correct?
That's correct.
And, I want to know personally, Is there going to be an updated market rate this year? Do you happen to know? And yes, please. The providers want to know.
Inside scoop.
They want to know when will the state reevaluate the market rates? Is that happening?
That is usually up to OCFS, but it does happen typically between June and October.
Okay. Yeah, why is it such a broad, like parents are calling me today asking for childcare for next year. Why can't they update the market rates before the school year starts?
That's a question that you have to ask OCFS because honestly,
bump it up.
I feel like every year it should be evaluated, not every 2 years, but
no, agreed. Yeah,
it's up to OCFS. It's not your local office.
Yeah. All right. What you got?
Copays.
Mm-hmm.
Some parents, are not aware that there's a copay. Can you explain that a little bit and like what it ranged from? Like how much do they pay? Is there like a cap? Like they copay reaches? Like, what does that look like?
So it's family share fee, or parent share fee or parent portion.
Mm-hmm.
That is what their responsibility is to pay to the daycare on in our county at least a weekly basis. The minimum is, it was $1, but now those families that are paying $1 don't have to pay anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I suppose the minimum is now $150 and the maximum is $15. If a family is typically over $15, they're either on the wait list or they're over the income guidelines. But it's just something on a weekly basis, meaning that they qualify, but that's just their responsibility to make them accountable for some kind of payment.
It must vary from different county because we've definitely had more than $15 of parent copay. So I guess it's different. I've seen $50 copays. Yeah, parent fees. Yeah, $49.99 easy care. Mm-hmm. Okay.
No.
You're
probably thinking about people doing extended sessions and they're paying the parent fee plus our private fee. Possibly.
Okay. Because I didn't even know there was a cap of $15. No, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah, I think it's a part of a program where they're trying to basically eventually get to universal childcare, but they're not. So literally every June, and it is a task and a half, we have to go through almost 300 cases and manually change their stuff, and it goes down by 50 cents.
Really?
Yes.
How often do you have to do that?
Every June. Sometimes we have to do it every June and every January, but thankfully it's just every June, but it's just a lot to do manually. So yes, I'm very sorry if we're like slow sometimes, because sometimes we have to do projects like that where we go into 300 cases and we have a deadline of 1 month to go into 300 cases on top of our regular cases to reduce your family share fee, because New York State wants to eventually go into universal childcare, but 50 cents at a time.
Sounds like the county needs more workers. Anyway, you must, and speaking of that, you process hundreds of, like you just said, hundreds of applications often. What is one thing you wish that every parent knew about the people working behind the scenes at DSS?
That we're not being, I guess, spiteful or mean or purposefully denying you or withholding funds, or that we don't care, because we do care, and we do understand that childcare is important, that people need childcare, and that if we didn't have a need, we wouldn't apply. It's just that some things are really not left up to us. Like, you can't put on certain documentation, especially recent documentation, that maybe you live in New York City and then put something 2 days ago saying like, oh yeah, no, I actually live here and I've lived here for a year, but this letter says your address is in New York City and it's dated 2 days ago. So, like, there's certain things that we're not trying to be purposeful or nitpicky on. It's just, if you give us certain documentation that says certain things, it has to match what you're trying to say in your application, or else you're going to get denied. And it's not just us being vengeful or spiteful or pity, but us having to follow regulations and guidelines. And if we get audited and they fine us, and that's less workers, and then that's even more time to do your application. So, please get your paperwork correct.
The first time around.
Or if we send you a document request and we give you like second and third chances, please do not get upset when we eventually have to close your case, because if we're sending you requests multiple times to correct something.
Awesome. If you could give one pro tip to speed up an approval from 30 days to 10 days, what would it be?
I would say that typically does depend on the county, the worker, as well as the parent situation. But let's say you're just a normal single family household, and if it's a new application, we would need your application completed, like everything completed. We need to have your name, your address, if you get any extra benefits, reason for your need. Second page, household information, absent parent information, why the absent parents can't take care of the child. Third page, your job and your income, and if you are going to school and whatnot. Fourth page, lists all and any income. And fifth page, signed. Then also, well, it does vary on a county basis what the main documents are, which is why it's good to go to your resource and referral program to find out what are the main documents that are needed. But with us, we need your work information, your income, because it's an income-based program. And we need...
You have to work.
Not necessarily. You have to be an approved program or an approved activity.
Okay.
But that's what I'm saying. Like the example is just a working single parent household. So we need your work information as well as your income. We need the daycare that your child is trying to go to so that we know who we're trying to give the funds to. Again, if it's a new application, we would need the birth certificate of the child because the child does have to be a citizen. Parents' photo ID, and proof that you are a resident of the county that you're applying for. And that's typically it. And a lot of times that's not an application, but those few things, like it's been reduced significantly, and those few things are still typically missing.
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine. I mean, I don't even have to imagine. I've seen myself how thick those application packets are, and it can be intimidating. At least in our county, I believe that they give, no matter, well, I guess because it's a parent's choice to choose between what type of provider they want, but like they send the packet for, like you said, legally exempt providers. They send it for home daycares, center-based. Like it's a lot of pages that many are just unnecessary. Most are unnecessary depending on what type of provider you're going to go with. So the parents that are applying for the first time ever and maybe even going to a provider who's not that familiar or new, that doesn't have, you know, the information to help them or know who to call to get the right information, it can be overwhelming. So everybody needs to give everybody grace and have some patience during the process. But I do, even though there may be some frustrations and delays at times, I think that the availability of childcare assistance, even if it doesn't cover 100% of what your program might charge, having the access to a resource like this is amazing. And we're talking about thousands of dollars, what costs more than some college tuition, you know, being given to families that need it the most for nearly free. That's a great luxury to have in New York State.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Childcare is one of the most expensive, like the highest expenses for a typical family of four.
Yeah.
So I definitely understand how important this program is. And I do try my best to assist the clients. And I understand that can be overwhelming too with the applications and stuff. I know our county specifically, because we know that people can get overwhelmed, or we do have a lot of where parents are missing like certain reading things. We just basically have the application and we have the main documents that we need. We also have our reception that can answer questions and can send you the specific documents that you actually do need. And like I said, with us, like if you have any questions, or honestly, if parents are a little bit more transparent with me and say like, oh, you know, even though I put this that I'm working, I'm actually still on maternity leave, then I can be like, all right, well, this is the document that you need instead. You can just disregard this and whatnot. So, you know, just be honest and transparent with your caseworker. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Lauren, thank you so much for being here today.
Yes.
We really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Every episode we do something called an AEA Plus, which is where we give a spotlight or a shout out to special person, group of people, one of our centers or a committee or something that deserves a shout out. So I'm going to ask my lovely co-host here, Miss Gaelle,
Yes,
to give our AEA Plus, because I don't think she's picked one yet for the season.
hold on.
Can I shout myself out? You can put that in the bloopers.
No, please keep that. Do that one more time. No, I love that. I love that. That's right. Time for our, what?
AEA Plus.
Yes, it is. And I am going to give it to Miss Tiani at our Unidale location. She is the preschool teacher there, and you're doing an amazing job. Keep up the good work.
Great job, Miss Tiani. All right. Well, you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Magnify Child Care. If you are not subscribed to our podcast on YouTube, please be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn the notification bell on so you could be notified every single time we post a new episode. All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time. Bye. Great job.
On the next episode,
I do have two lovely special guests whose beautiful daughters were enrolled at our married location.
Maya learned to become more self-sufficient
Yes.
on her own. Like, she's a good problem solver.
That's the thing, like
I
literally
was very
seeing your
upset.
presence there was like the sense of security for us that our kids are safe. Right?
Yeah.